it seems as though the basement is a dead zone. So I'm going to walk down to the basement, and as I approach it, we're going to see what happens. It has extended the range to the garage, but we'll see what happens. You can still see me, right?
Yeah, but I'm curious as to why the basement just suddenly became a dead zone within the last month or two when we've been doing this for about a year.
Yeah, I don't know. So you can still see me?
Yeah.
All right. Well,
My
hopefully
coffee.
this will
Just
just
in case
continue
people don't
then.
think I'm like trying to hide booze or something in my mug. It's actually coffee.
Well, since I quit caffeine, hiding coffee in a mug would be sneaky. Plain sight. All right.
Yep.
So, again, I don't know if anyone is actually seeing it, but I did post a link to Beggar Talk. Beggar Talk, of course, the people that play role-playing games that are not Dungeons & Dragons 5e, a great group of people who may or may not come in and say, what is this? I've said that it's you and me talking about nothing for an hour, which I think is good for setting expectations.
I think we're also, you can also market the show by saying it's like being, you don't have to pay attention. It's just like being in a room with a couple of your dumb friends and they're having a conversation and you're just off doing something else.
Yeah, it might as well not be happening. That's what. that's the other thing that we can add. Okay, so let me just. I'm about to start the podcast. The audio feed for the podcast is about to start. I'm going to pretend like there's a person watching. This is going to be a little bit different, Ben, because I'm going to walk people through this thing that has happened 285 times now. That started out with no real plan, but now has somewhat of a structure. So I'm about to hit record.
All right.
And here we go. All right. And that's how the podcast is starting this time. And here we go. All right. And then I will say, Ben Lawrence.
Paul Goody.
So, oftentimes, how this is now the beginning of the podcast. If you have never listened to the podcast before, this is kind of the part where I tell you about what the podcast is, or sometimes we just jump into it because, and this is important, we do not expect people to listen to this podcast. We are doing a podcast, and the podcast is an hour every single week, but we do not expect people to listen, and luckily for us, that pretty much is what happens most of the time. And now we are also streaming the podcast, streaming the record of the podcast. So for any observer, any alien observer, the difference between us doing a podcast, say about murders or about, hey, this is how you do improv or whatever, we are going through the exact same motions. The only difference is that this podcast was designed not to be listened to. It's a podcast that's done, and you can listen to it, but we are assuming that no one is listening. So that's sort of the premise.
And
now,
even though podcasts have been around for 10 years, maybe more, there still is no reliable metric to find out how many people actually listen to your show. Like I'm talking about listenership. Yeah, iTunes doesn't give you any solid numbers, and it doesn't really matter because, iTunes can download your show as a podcast, but that doesn't mean people will actually listen to it.
Right. And I guess that's why they go with subscribers, right? We've got this many subscribers. This many people actually subscribe to the show. And Ben, for our podcast, which is meant to be listened to by 0 people, how many subscribers do we have?
According to FeedBurner, which is this antiquated feed aggregate site that I use, the GudeLaurance podcast has 49 subscribers.
That is incredible. I cannot believe that is an actual true number.
I don't think that's an actual true number either. But that's what it tells me, you know?
So, like, one of those is me and one of those is you. So that's 47 right there.
Yeah.
Which I believe is a prime number. All right. So, there are a couple of mythos. There's a mythos. A couple of myths. Actually, there are a couple of myths. I'll go with myth number one. Myth number one for how the podcast has gotten its format is that Joe Garden, an editor for The Onion, once stated that his least favorite type of podcast was two white guys talking for an hour about nothing in particular, which I then took as the format for this podcast. So the idea that this podcast is specifically designed to annoy Joe Garden is one of the myths about this podcast, which everything that I stated right there is, in fact, the case. But there are a couple of other ones as well. Ben, you were about to say something. I started.
Well, we didn't start the podcast because of Joe Garden. We'd already been doing an hour show before that came about. But the Joe Garden mythos is why we will not do a show under an hour.
That's right. And hardly ever any guests. That's part of it. I think Joe Garden actually did listen to it a couple of times, which, to his credit, it was specifically designed to make him not do. So,
haha, joke's on you.
Yeah, exactly. We gotcha, Joe Garden. If you are listening, wow, what a surprising episode to tune in for. But there are some other things as well. One is that Ben and I are doing this podcast so that future archaeologists will have a record of what life was like in the early 21st century. Now, and this is true, if you wanted to go through our back catalog, you could hear our thoughts about COVID all the way through the beginning of the pandemic until now.
Yeah.
And I've heard from some people that it's chilling. A chilling, very slow-paced
That's
drama.
Only the most recent thing that you could, the most recent development, like world development, that you can hear our thoughts on. We've been doing the show long enough that you can actually hear our thoughts about candidate for president Donald Trump and his chances of actually getting the presidency and the chilling things that would happen were he to become president. But that's not possible, surely.
And then, did those things come to pass? Pretty much.
Did we make it happen?
Very well. Another mythos. I keep on saying mythos. It's because I've got D&D on the brain now. Another myth about the podcast is that the world we exist in is a simulation that has been built off of the audio for everything that Ben and I talk about on this podcast. And so it explains why I recovered childhood memories after talking about things in my childhood on this podcast. It's because it's being added into the algorithm that drives the simulation, which I like as a concept. But what does that mean for you, the listener? Well, obviously, you are probably the scientists who decided to use this as a seed in your virtual reality algorithm. And how do you feel about it? How is the life that you have constructed for yourself? Let us know by writing us at Ben's email at yahoo.com, at gmail.com. Now let's stop there for a second. We thought it would be really funny if the email address that we used for people to write to the podcast was incredibly difficult to understand when you're listening to it on a podcast. Ben has taken it upon himself to actually put the email address into the show notes, so it's a lot easier if you actually want to email us. But let's listen to that. Ben's email at yahoo.com at gmail.com. Incredible.
Yeah,
I think it's one of our best things.
Yeah. I sometimes get caught up in it because sometimes I think maybe the email address of the show is GudeLaurance at yahoo.com at gmail.com, but that's not it.
No, it's Ben's email.
Ben's
and
email.
I think what happened was I think we actually made it up on the spot.
We were, it was one of the early shows. Yeah. Maybe even the first show. I think maybe episode 1 when we were actually in the same room together.
We might have actually been talking about the sort of genesis of this is that you and I were sitting around one time talking about, because at one point in time I worked for a large internet retailer, and later on I worked for a company that made community software, and we were talking about having to spell email, not email addresses, having to spell URLs to people over the phone, and how you could construct a URL that was, for instance, like you could have one that was AH, the word exclamation point spelled out, and then also a question mark. And depending on, and the idea would be, and also a question mark, would just be the words and also a question mark. Yeah. That sort of thing. And we made a whole bunch of them. And so when it came time to get an email address for the show, I thought it'd be funny to do something of the same nature. And that is how we landed. But email is not the only way for you to contact us. No. We also are live streaming right now. So if you're in the chat, you can ask us questions, which would be fine to do. Or you can also call and leave us a voicemail at B10 Lung Lag. That's right, B10 Lung Lag. And we were taking live calls at one point in time, but I think that didn't work out as well.
We can still do that. I'm going to have to look into that because I'm looking at the Google Voice webpage right now, and it says, your browser may prevent calls from ringing. Change browser settings to allow voice.google.com to play sound. I've not bothered looking into fixing that.
Again, no one calls, so that's part of it.
No one calls.
Because no one is listening.
You can you can text this number, and I receive those texts. That's often how Steven interacts with the show, is he texts the number.
Now, we are at the 10-minute mark, which is normally, and by the way, if your nickname is 10-minute Mark, I'm not actually talking to you, but it's nice to know that we're being listened to by someone with such an inventive nickname. At the 10-minute mark, Ben, I normally check with you. Has there been any interaction?
There have not been any interactions at all. Nothing on the chats. Nothing. No voice messages or no text or voicemails. No emails. We do, however, have a text from Steven, who was interacting with us last Saturday as we recorded.
Yes.
Which we didn't get to because the show ended. He says, maybe you should consider releasing all of these podcasts at the same time so I wouldn't have to remember the shifting schedule. We do release the podcasts at the same time every week. We release them on Mondays at 8 a.m. But yes, depending on our schedules, the stream shifts during the week. But then he says...
That's one thing. A podcast that no one listens to is a low priority when it comes to planning one's schedule.
Yeah, and the only marketing we do is every once in a while I will tweet at you the link to the show.
Yes, and I will just do a retweet of that with something like, "Hey, this is happening."
This is happening.
And then there's every once in a while, I didn't do it last time, but I did this time again. I will send the link out to the Beggar Talk people and say, "Hey, just if you're interested, this is going on." But I do not expect engagement, and I prefer often not to have it. Speaking about which, I have a Twitter account that we know about that is low numbers. It used to be higher numbers, and I got rid of it because it became too much of a hassle. The reason I'm mentioning this is that TikTok, I might have mentioned this before, but in case I didn't, TikTok has a sneaky way of making me want to get more followers. And that's that you can't actually go live with people where you're talking to them face to face unless you have 1,000 followers or more. So now all of a sudden I want to get to 1,000 followers so that I can interact with people. Like I said, very sneaky of them.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like something that I would want to do. But having followers and creating engagement is a barrier to entry for a lot of social media sites. YouTube actually famously demonetized a bunch of channels because they didn't have enough followers or enough viewership on their content. I was actually one of those channels that was demonetized. I wasn't making any money off of YouTube anyway. On the Panel Jumper channel, but because I had like it's an absurd number, like less than 10,000 subscribers and less than X number of minutes viewed per week, my channels were demonetized. Now, that's not saying ads aren't on my videos. If YouTube thinks I'm using a piece of copyrighted music, YouTube will put an ad on my videos, and I can't say anything about it because that's where the show is posted. So it's a scam. Sometimes I just want to turn it off.
Wait, does that mean that we have ads on our live stream videos at some time?
We might have an ad on the one video where we played that song that the band David Diggs is in. I don't remember which one it is, but that video got a strike on it. And so, yeah, that video, if you watch that video, it might have an ad before it. But we don't get any of that money.
Did they, but they didn't take it down.
No, it's still up. Don't just put an ad on it.
Did we talk about my TikToks getting taken down? We did, right?
Yeah, last week you mentioned that.
Last episode? Did I mention that they came back? They reinstated them.
Yeah, you mentioned that as well.
Okay, good. And the only reason I mentioned it is because if you are a TikTok person and your TikTok was taken down because some racists decided to mass report it, appeal, because you'll find out that appeal will normally go through.
It's interesting how little oversight the initial takedown requests have. YouTube and Facebook have that too. Anybody can say, take this down, and it gets taken down, and then you have to, you as the creators or as the owner of that content have to wait for somebody to actually watch it and say, oh yeah, no, you shouldn't have been taken down.
You should always appeal. Definitely. I can't wait for them to get punitive for people that request things be taken down when they're not bad.
Oh, it's a sticky situation there.
Yep. Speaking of sticky situations, honey. I've started drinking honey with my tea. I have monk fruit sweetener for my tea. And it's all right, but nothing beats honey. Honey is just good. And we've talked about this before, but honey,
black coffee.
Vegans don't like it sometimes. Some vegans don't like it.
Because of the bees?
Because of the bees. Because you're stealing from the bees. But it reminded me of, have you seen the videos of the person who goes in and moves bees from one place to another?
I've seen videos of that, yeah. There's one dude who, like, he holds the queen in his hand and the hive swarms up his entire arm. And he just casually walks from one place to another. Yeah.
I find that amazing.
When honeybees are docile, they're incredibly, like, you can just scrape them off the hive. They just fall to the ground.
Yeah. I got stung on my finger one time. This is actually the house that you moved all my stuff out of. I was just walking. I mean, I was walking like a person. Have I mentioned before that I had to learn how to swing my... This is not how I look, but I had to learn how to swing my arms. If you knew me back when I was in college, I would not swing my arms when I walked. I actually had to teach myself to do that.
Purpose?
No, I just didn't. It wasn't a thing I did. Also, running. I would run without moving my arms. If you can imagine.
Right. So you got stung on your finger because you were walking like a human.
I was walking. I was swinging my arms, and just on one of my upswings, a bee came and stung me right on my finger.
That little jerk.
Yeah. What was I doing? Maybe it wasn't a bee. That's what I was thinking.
Maybe it was a wasp or a hornet.
But it could have been a wasp or a hornet. That's right.
Yeah. It's been years since I've been stung by a bee of some flavor.
It really hurts. That was the thing that I was surprised about. I was like, I remember this hurting, but I thought it was just because I was a kid and I couldn't take it. But it really hurts.
Yeah.
Once again, I will talk about people who get tattoos. I feel like the people that say, I got a tattoo and it didn't hurt, I don't trust them.
Because what else are they lying to you about?
Oh, Stephen was talking about tattoos. So this is my tattoo. You can hardly see it. There it is. That hurt. When I got it, that tattoo hurt. Also, quick tip a little bit of inside trivia. I used to have a septum piercing. I got the septum piercing and the tattoo at the same time. And
were you in the Air Force at the time?
Yeah, that was when I was in the Air Force. And I got it high enough up so that when you have the little horseshoe looking thing that goes kind of like that. And when I pushed it up into my nose, you couldn't see it. So it was real sneaky. And then when I got out of the Air Force, it still hurt whenever I wiped my face off with a towel or anything. And eventually I was like, I could just take this out. So I took it out.
The Air Force was okay with you getting a septum piercing?
No, they aren't. They didn't know about it. I was on leave.
Gotcha. All right.
So
it sounds like something they would frown upon.
It was my little secret thing, the tattoo and the septum piercing. I was like, haha. Well, I'm in the Air Force, but I have a septum piercing.
Tattoos make sense in the armed services. I mean, it's almost a requirement, I feel.
You go to the Navy.
You go to the tattoo parlor with your Navy buddies. Get a ship's anchor on one arm.
I always wonder what the universe where I joined the Navy instead of the Air Force was like. Because I love the uniforms, the hat, all that stuff. But I'm not a good swimmer. That's why I didn't join the Navy.
Yeah. I was actually... I was never at risk of joining the military. I wasn't that kind of kid. But I remember at one point, my dad sat my sister and I down one day. I don't know why he did this. I was probably in like elementary school, like 6th grade. Maybe my sister was like in high school then. And he's like, I don't want either of you to join the military. My dad is in the military. He was at the time, and he's like, I don't want you to go to the armed services. And I was like, you don't have to tell me twice.
Can I ask what your father did?
He was in the National Guard. So he was the guy that went and fought wildfires and organize that kind of thing. So it's he also he spent time in Saudi Arabia during Operation Desert. I want to say it was Desert Shield at the time. I don't think it'd become Desert Storm yet. But anyway, at any rate, he was a lifelong military man, and forbade my sister and I from joining the military, and neither of us wanted to, so it wasn't a big blow. So
that's weird. Your father and I were in the military at the same time.
Yeah, Dad retired. Well, he was forced to retire at about 1996, I want to say, because Bill Clinton, he still holds Bill Clinton responsible because Clinton closed my dad's base.
1996 was when I left as well.
Yeah. You probably don't still hold a grudge against the president.
Under greatly different circumstances.
Yes, probably.
So that's another story. Hey, look, how many viewers do we have right now, Ben? Any?
Just the one, and I don't even think it's a person. I think maybe that's just like somebody left their YouTube on and we're playing.
Person, you get to see Edward the Cheweagle. There he is. He looks like this is his Thanksgiving turkey look, I like to say, when his arms are out like this. Yeah, but I like Edward. He's nice. He barks at my neighbor a lot.
Well, he's protecting you.
What's that?
He's protecting you.
Yeah. Protecting me from the neighbors. This is true. All right, so let's get into it, Ben. Let's do I'm sorry, listener. I have stopped curating what was going on. Every once in a while, that will happen. Ben and I will just get into a conversation. It's very nice. But let's now talk about Paul gonna guess the news. I have not been paying attention to the news lately. Is there anything going on, Ben, that you know about, that you can hint at, and I can then guess?
No. I've not been paying much attention to the news either. The world is progressing. The Olympics are on right now.
I know something.
All right.
Tunisia. Oh my gosh, this is actual news, Ben. In Tunisia, the president of Tunisia, because of economic hardship in the country, declared himself the only person in charge and disbanded the legislature and
I bet Republicans
closed
love
the Al
him.
Jazeera office there.
Oh.
So there you go. That's a news thing. That's a real news thing. I didn't make you guess it because how could you?
I didn't know. I didn't know of that. No,
BMW has a... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Speaking of cars, the president was going to announce today, or either he's still going to announce it, or he has already announced it, and I missed it. But he's challenging all the American, the big three car manufacturers to be 50% electric by, I think it's 2030, which is only 9 years away.
That's not bad. I of course, right now drive a Prius with the bumper held on by zip ties.
I drive a car. I still drive a gasoline car, which is funny because I remember in 2001, before I got rid of my car, and this was like right after 9/11. Kind of like we had just gone to war. Maybe this was 2003. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think it's 2003. We just gone to war, and I'm like, I'm done with fossil fuels. I'm no longer going to buy any car that is gas powered. And that didn't happen. I didn't stay true to my word. Because every car I've ever bought since then has been run on dinosaur bones.
Because what I want to talk about is the BMW electric vehicle concept car that they just showed. It was on, I believe it was called Mashable.
The website?
The website that talked about it. they have a concept car that looks really cool, I think. Very futuristic, weird. It's a electric vehicle that has this mode where it basically turns into a living room.
Oh, right. The chairs turn around. So is it like an autonomous car?
And the sides open and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I used to. There was they took that from an episode of Black Mirror. BMW has an electric car line already. This isn't their first electric car line, but it's probably like their first like fully autonomous electric car, where you just get in and you just tell it where to go, and you don't need to worry about like keeping your hands on the on the steering wheel or anything.
Have I told you about my idea for the social media new neighbors site?
No.
It's a two-part process. One is that you buy this mobile home kind of thing, a tiny house that is electric and that moves very slowly. And what it does is it uses the highway system. Right? There's like an ultra slow lane, basically. And
or I-5 in Seattle at rush hour.
Exactly. This is actually part of how I was thinking about it. Because, there are times when you're on I-5 in rush hour in Seattle, and you're like, I could get out of my car, walk over to the next person, ask them how they're doing, get back in, and it wouldn't matter. It's sort of like that. So you have these mobile homes, truly mobile homes, and they move slowly down the highways. And then you're also taking surveys and talking on social media and all that, and you become friends with people. And your slow-moving mobile homes converge with each other. And you actually park in these parking lots, and you basically live out of these homes, you work remotely, and you have neighbors, and you get along, you have like a good time, you stay there for like a week or two, and then it takes off again. So you just have this lifestyle that's kind of nomadic.
I mean, I think that lifestyle would work if you enjoyed talking to your neighbors. I live in Seattle, though. I don't even know what my neighbors look like.
See, yeah. Well, that's the idea is what if, this is kind of the way I'm thinking about it, is that like you and me could finally meet up someplace, right? And hang out. And then that's really all I'm saying, is that you and I both need to move to the same place. Wait a second. We were living in the same place. Whose fault is that, Paul?
It's funny.
Capitalism.
I constantly tell the story about how when Blair and I came out to visit you all in St. Louis a couple years ago, in Edwardsville, and we went to dinner at that like 50s themed diner on Route 66. And the total check was like $25. Everybody's just astounded at how inexpensive Midwest living is.
Oh, now here's something interesting. That place on Route 66?
Yeah.
They have a giant Donald Trump statue now.
Oh, good.
And I was like, and I was there with the kid and with Jennifer, and the kid goes, maybe it's just ironic. And I'm like, you don't put up that big of a statue.
No, that's not ironic. That's virtue signaling.
Yeah, so that was too bad. I was like, oh, we can't really go here anymore.
Which is a shame. I really liked their food, and I dig. We don't have any like 50s diners in Seattle. I mean, I get Johnny Rockets, I guess, but like, I don't even think that place is still open. They've totally remodeled the Pacific Place Mall. Do you remember when we went to Johnny? We were there like having like dinner before or after a movie, and our server was like serving us. But then they do this thing where it's like at some point, like on the hour, they dance, and so the server was like taking our order, and then she was like, "Hang on." And then, like, begrudgingly went to go dance with all of her coworkers.
Yep. I do remember that. And then, came back pretty much right after that.
Yeah.
I
hope
we have
that
a
place
Steak and
played.
Shake.
I hope that place played. I hope that place paid well.
Me too. Oh man, I hope so too. Oh, we're getting a Five Guys, by the way.
You are?
Yep.
Because I heard a rumor that
built.
they're closing a bunch of restaurants.
That Five Guys is?
Yeah.
Oh, that's too bad. Steak and Shake, I hear, is also closing. And Steak and Shake, the reason I mention it is it's another 50s kind of diner place. And it is where a friend of the podcast, Andy, and a couple other people and I witnessed the crazy fight. And I was about to tell the story, and then I realized that part of the story involves swearing. And you really need to have the swearing in order to get the full effect. So I'll just say, I'm not going to tell the whole story, but it ended up with people throwing dishes at each other. And Andy was like, and I couldn't figure out where all the dishes were coming from because he kept on throwing them. And I said, oh, I was actually watching that because it seemed kind of weird. He would throw the dishes, and then like the Hydra, it would break into a couple of pieces, and then he would throw those pieces. So it looked like he was keeping on throwing dishes, but he was really throwing the ricochet dishes. Somebody actually got cut. But the thing is, after the fight stopped, I wanted to continue with my order. And everyone was very confused. They were like, we can't do that, Paul.
Yeah.
The people with me at the table. I was like, okay, I get it.
When I was a kid, there was a Dairy Queen in the next neighborhood over that I rode my bike to a lot. That was 50s themed. It was the only Dairy Queen I knew that was 50s themed. And I was thinking about this recently, because it was still like a pretty... The decor was definitely old, and at that point, 1950, the 50s were 30 years ago. But if you do that today, if you model a restaurant that's 30 years old from today, that's the early 90s. And like the culture and the design shift from the 50s to the 80s is just exponentially larger, it feels, than it is from the 90s to the 2020s.
I will say, go look at some 90s haircuts, though.
Oh, no, they're fantastic. My yearbook is full of that.
It's something.
Yeah. No. That kind of hairstyle, but, like, yeah, it's just weird.
But
like,
design, architecture.
If Back to the Future happened and Marty McFly went back 30 years from 2021 to 1991, like...
Yeah, that's a really good point, Ben, because most of what they have when they go back like that, right? What do they choose? It's pop culture stuff. It's all the toys that they have and the games and things like that because the architecture hasn't changed that much.
Beanie Babies.
Cabbage Patch Kids.
Cabbage Patch Kids.
Wait. Cabbage Patch Kids were in the 80s, I think.
Yeah, that was more 80s than like early 90s. I don't know. It's just like, how old was I in 1991? I was a freshman in high school. So, whatever I did as a freshman in high school, I missed out on a lot of like, I aged out of a lot of what my millennial friends really like today. Pokemon, I think, is one of them.
Here's something. Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yeah.
People were talking about how, oh man, that was way back in 2005. And 2005 isn't way back for me. And that's something, I guess, that happens when you get older, is, we've talked about this before, the people are like, I can't believe that I'm still eating cereal and I'm 24. And it's like, I don't know, man. That's not, you're like half my age. It's not you're not old.
I mean, in 2005, we did I'm looking at our GudeLaurance history.
Yeah.
2005 is when we did Midnight Road Trip to Tacoma.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And a year before Betty was born. So
Let's Throw a Fish at Joseph was 2005.
Oh man, which by the way, people have asked me, is it still like, would he still want that to be shown these days?
He's proud of it. He shows it. I mean, I don't know if he shows it publicly, but Joseph has been known to show that at parties.
Oh, nice. I really like that.
So he likes it. I don't know if he wants it. Like, it's online. People can find it. But it's not as bad as the Cooking with Krebsy show that we filmed with Joseph once. And he after we filmed it and after it was edited, he forbade us from airing it because he had just gotten a job at the Seattle Youth Symphony Orchestra and was now working with. He wasn't working with kids, but he was working for an organization that benefited children. And
that makes sense to me.
Yeah, and so he's like, I don't want that shown. So I'm like, I just worked on this for a month, and now I can't show it. Thanks.
yeah, that was too bad. But hey, at least you respected his wishes, which is good. The one thing that people may not know, but you and I know, is that you still got a little bit of use out of it for Puppet House.
Yeah, that's actually true. I used a clip of it.
Snippet of it.
A couple times, actually. Puppet House and I think The Warehouse.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Every time I showed us watching TV, that clip came, or like switching channels, that show was on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, The Warehouse.
The Warehouse.
That's a good one.
That was the last time I bought Tab.
Speaking about our past things, why don't we do it? Here's the other thing, listener. You might say, why, Ben and Paul, are you even doing a podcast? Who are you? What do you do? So we are a performance art duo. And I like to say, Ben, and I know that you know this, that this podcast is our largest piece of, we have different categories of what we do. And we have some performance art that we just call endurance performance art, where we stay up for a really long time, or where
yeah, we've done that.
The audience is forced to do something, whatever. So this podcast, by the time we're done, we're already at almost a year. And again, the only way the podcast is going to end is if Ben and I move to the same city again and start performing. Until then, this continues our performance. So we can say that we have been doing performance art for how long now, Ben?
Well, our first recorded collaboration was on June 2nd, 2000. So 21 years.
So 21 years. Our performance art grouping can buy a handgun. We can, it can legally drink.
Yeah.
So here's the question, Ben. What is the next thing on we're going through performance by performance. What's the next performance that we're looking at?
Well, you're going to have to remind me what the last thing we talked about was.
Oh, man. Give me some guesses.
Did we talk about Naked Dead Guy?
Yes, we did.
All right.
We did talk about Naked Dead Guy.
Did we talk about Skates or Blades?
Ooh, boy. What's the one after Skates and Blades? Skates or Blades?
Is Let's Throw a Fish at Joseph. And I don't think we talked about that.
I think we might have talked about Skates or Blades, actually.
I think we might have too, because I remember talking about the pictures that were associated with it, and like maybe putting one in the show notes. So yeah, I think we did talk about that. So next up is.
Wait, can we talk about Skates or Blades really quick, just because I want to make sure?
So Skates or Blades, we have a race across the stage at Annex to determine which is better, roller skates or roller blades. And I think this came up. Pardon me. I think this came about because I was living at Mr. House at the time, and there was a pair of roller blades in the basement that nobody claimed.
Well, also remember that I had gotten a free pair of roller skates that somebody gave to me.
Yeah, so we put 2 and 2 together and like let's do something with these. So we had a race across the stage. The challenge was we either had the audience or a select few throw recess balls at us as we were trying to cross the stage.
I feel as though the way that this was set up is that it was set up only as a race between you and me.
Yeah.
But we already knew that people were going to throw recess balls at us. Like it was this weird conceit, like, oh no, they're throwing, like we had been tricked somehow.
And, and it was just going to be, I mean, you could call it clowning, even though, we're not in clown. But the point was not to actually finish the race.
Exactly, yes. The plan. Oh, and so you're talking about the pictures. What about the pictures?
Oh, there's just, at that point, I can't remember if it was David Baum who was the spin the bottle photographer or if Ian had started taking pictures at that point. But there are a couple of good pictures of us doing skates or blades.
Could you put those in the show notes? Do you have them? Do you have access to them?
I can't help but feel I've already done this. Let me look and see.
This may just be my downward mental spiral, Ben. This might be an example of it.
Yeah. So it wasn't last month. I know that. Month before that? No. I'm just scrolling through our past episodes right now.
While you're doing that, I'm going to do something that I do to Edward all the time. It's my boy! It's my little boy! Oh, Edward! Edward, you're such a little... Like that. That's how I talk to him. Sometimes I'll do this. Oh, you're so my boy! Oh, Ben!
All right. So, yeah, there's a picture of us from episode 264 on March 15th, where the skates or blades picture, but this looks like it's from Spin the Bottle Jr. So maybe that's where the picture is from. Yeah.
Spin the Bottle Jr. was pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah. So we did talk about least that one.
Oh, so then I guess we can talk about Let's Throw a Fish at Joseph then. We have 15 minutes. I think that works out.
Let's throw a fish at Joseph.
Also, Betty is at band, so there will be no yelling for Betty.
Right on. So yeah, Let's Throw a Fish at Joseph was from April 1st, 2005.
Nice.
And Paul, do you remember the genesis of this idea?
No, I do not. Please tell me.
Because I don't think I was there for this. I think it was you and Joseph. 'Cause the story that I heard is you and Joseph and maybe some other people hanging out, and Joseph just goes, "I'll let you throw a fish at me and film it."
I believe that's quite possible. Quite possible.
Don't know why I know that and you don't, because I don't think I was there for that. But at any rate, so we decided to do that.
So he just volunteered this as a thing.
He volunteered this as a thing. We filmed this the Easter Sunday 2005. And Joseph was on his way back from Kennewick. And a majority of the video is just you and I driving around town in my old Dodge 600 SE, affectionately called the Goose. And me getting more and more frustrated with you as the day went on.
which we revisited in something we'll talk about much later.
Yeah.
Location.
Yeah, but this was one of our first like a cinema verite videos.
Yeah, because Ben is. We had already experienced something like this already, but this is the first time that it appeared on film.
The best, I mean, when people watch this video, the thing that they react to the most is not like Joseph getting hit with a fish, although they do love that. It's when we're in your new apartment on Cherry Street and I think like 23rd, and you're looking for the keys. And then as we leave, you pick up this giant box of mac and cheese. Do you remember the giant box of mac and cheese?
I do remember the giant box of mac and cheese. I think it was just a box also. I don't think there was any mac and cheese in it.
Yeah. So,
which is interesting because my father, my biological father, Kevin Lovick, he's an artist in Chicago, did some murals for craft later on. So he has painted an even larger box of mac and cheese.
Nice. Yeah, we have such friends appearing in this video as Scott O'More and Jen Moon, your wife, Jennifer Pratt, Pamela Miatov, and Bryn Hambley.
Yeah, that's right. I think that didn't we film it sort of at the what was it called Scott O'More and Jen Moon had a location where we filmed Cherub the Vampire.
Yeah, it was named after a Buffy thing, but I'm not. I forgot what it was called. But
the Bronze.
The Bronze. Yeah, it was this like 6-car garage in their backyard that they turned into like a performance space. So yeah, they were like rehearsing something, and we showed up and crashed the rehearsal and filmed a couple segments. And one thing I remember is like we interviewed Pamela for like 10 minutes, and all of that got cut except for her saying, "Yeah, man, yeah."
Yeah,
that's all we used.
That's true.
So
I think Jennifer was in that shot also.
She wasn't in the shot, but she was in the space.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That was a lot of fun.
Was Jennifer sitting next to someone when she had her segment?
Do you want to watch the video?
Oh, yeah, let's do. We have yeah, can we? I would love to watch the video, actually.
I'm going to make it so you can see it as well. So, whoops, that's not what I wanted to do.
Hey, there he is.
Here I am.
Who's that guy?
Hang on a sec. I'm going to switch my camera that you're seeing
Gotcha.
to something that, so you don't just see me, you see what's happening on screen. All right, so now you can see.
Hey, look at that guy.
All right.
Right, we had to stop doing this because I would get too distracted.
Yeah, especially when your internet went out. All right, so here we go. Let's watch this.
Hi, I'm Joseph Krebs, writer, conversationalist, and raging homosexual. And it's come to my attention that many people would like to see me get hit by a fish.
Sir, would you like to see Joseph Krebs hit by a fish?
Yes, sir.
Joseph? Please.
Yes, I would.
Yeah. Man, yeah.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Definitely.
Absolutely.
None of my family has met Joseph, but they've often said, that boy needs a fish thrown at him.
Yeah.
Something fierce.
So, that's what we're gonna do.
gonna go and buy a fish at the Pike Place Market and throw it at my friend Joseph now.
It's 10 o'clock on a Sunday, and so, I didn't want to get out of bed.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh, yeah, you don't want the door to open on you.
Yeah, that's
I was taking Mike Fahm home, and we went around the corner, and the door just flew open. Scared the hell
great.
out of me.
I'm gonna turn off the camera then and fix this.
Why don't you do that? Our mission to buy fish inevitably ended up back at Paul and Jennifer's place, where he's playing video games.
Vice City.
I'm not playing, I'm conducting social research. Okay, I know what you want me to say. So I wasted Ben's time.
Yeah, okay.
Hi, Mom! The coffee shop that I wanted to go to was closed, so Ben and I are gonna go to Top Pot. Oh no, is she sick? Oh, I wanted to go to Leroy Menswear.
He wants to go to a store to see what their hours are.
To see what their hours are? You guys are playing Roomie Cup, that sounds great.
Right now, Paul is looking for the keys to his new apartment.
I don't have any money with me. Ben probably doesn't have any money. We're gonna have to go and get money out of an ATM. They said that they would put them in the drawer somewhere. I'm calling my sister. I'm gonna take a big box of macaroni and cheese with me. Yeah, I should call my dad because I didn't talk to him. I've turned all the pedestrians into riotous thugs by turning on several different cheat codes, and it's for features: color, symbol, shading, and number. The set consists of 3 cards with the same features, either the same on all cards or different on all cards. Is that cool? Do we have time? We have time, right? So the market appears to be open. It's not very crowded, so we're going to make our way to the fish people
And negotiate the
purchase
of the fish.
It appears the experts are not in.
It appears the fish people have Easter off. So what we need to do now is find another fish vendor.
There's head cheese.
He does make a lot of jokes about head cheese.
Those aren't jokes. Hey, I've got an idea.
What's your idea, Paul?
Wachimaya has fish, don't they?
Wachimaya across town, where we just came from. Just found parking. Yeah, let's go there.
Wajimaya.
They don't allow you to bring video cameras in.
Might not even allow it in the parking garage. We don't know.
They wouldn't even allow us to videotape the sign saying that there's no videotaping allowed, which I can actually understand. Here's the fish.
Now, what kind of fish is this?
It says it's a whole Saba.
Norwegian mackerel.
Norwegian mackerel.
Saba.
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 Norwegian mackerel.
Called it a chub, actually.
No, it's called a Saba.
There's
It's a
no
hefty
way.
fucking fish.
Yeah. Ready?
Yep.
How was the being
how's the
hit by the
experience?
fish?
It's okay. I'm kind of frightened.
Yeah, you got some fish goo on you.
Yeah, we
Every once in a while, what were you doing on the way? Did you stop for food or?
Oh, on my way from Kennewick?
You're still in Kennewick. Meet at 3? 3 would be good. You're not going to get here until 3:30 or 4? Jennifer, how long does it normally take to get from Kennewick to here?
3 hours.
3 hours? What's going on? Have you stopped off to drink? What the hell have you been doing?
He's probably off at some parking lot McDonald's in Ellenburg, masturbating.
I stopped for a little food.
This character assassination of Joseph is so awful.
Nice. What'd you have? I had some Arby's.
That's taken straight from one of his own stories that he read at Spin the Bottle.
Yeah, that happened to a character of his, though. That didn't actually...
That was no character.
Okay, that's it. That's it. No more.
Game over.
Okay. I think we actually have officially broken the fish.
We did break the fish.
Hey, did you hear anything I was saying during that?
No, I couldn't hear you.
I was like, oh man, is this just going to be dead air for the whole time, or can we pipe the audio in for the people? On
I'll figure something out. I may just cut out that entire thing on the official show.
Yeah, I did talk during it, but I just talked during it so that it would be okay for the people. So this, oh my gosh! All right, so how does this work? Do we have to go overtime?
No, I think we're fine. We don't need to go over.
What's happening, Ben? Right?
What's happening?
This is why we couldn't have me on the stream thing. The time delay between when I do something and when it shows up there is freaking me out a little bit.
All right. Hang on.
Can't help it.
I'll fix it. Good Lord, you baby. Nope, that's not it.
Speaking of Scottish people, who would you say, and I think you're going to know exactly who I'm thinking of, the best, not just the best Scottish comedian, but maybe one of the best comedians of all time is?
Billy Connolly?
Billy Connolly. Yes. So here is my question. Is Billy Connolly in the movie Boondock Saints, or am I just making that up?
I believe he is.
Okay, good. I really like Billy Connolly. And is he dead?
No, he's not dead, but last I heard, he's actually fighting some sort of disease, so he's probably, I don't think he's doing very well these days.
Okay.
What was that TV show? What was that sitcom he was in? Do you remember the name of that?
No.
He had a sitcom where he was a teacher, and I want to say that the guy who starred in The Big Bang Theory and like Roseanne was in it. I don't remember his name at the moment.
Wait a second. The guy in The Big Bang Theory was on Roseanne?
The main dude, not the tall guy, but the main nerd with the glasses.
Yeah, that guy.
He was like Becky's boyfriend for a time, I think, on Roseanne.
Oh, that's so weird.
God,
Okay.
I want to look it up. I also want to look up. We got to keep it wrong,
you're
but hey,
breaking
I know if we're gonna
horrible
go
rule
over
of the
time
podcast.
though. Yeah.
Edward's sitting like a dude. He's sitting like a person. It's always weird.
Yeah, he was in. Was it? I think it was just. I guess it was just called Billy. Was the name of his TV show?
Hey, I got a question for you, Ben.
Interesting. Yes, sir. Head of the class.
What's the head of the class?
He replaced.
Wait a second.
He replaced Howard Hessman
Oh, okay.
in the head of the class.
All right. Yeah. Now I'm remembering that. So I have
then
a
I
question
think-
for you. Let's throw a fish at Joseph, right? What's the runtime of that thing?
Oh, it felt super long.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, it's probably like 10, 12 minutes maybe.
Wow.
I can look it up. So Johnny Galecki, who is in The Big Bang Theory and played Becky's boyfriend on Roseanne, I think, was in Billy, not Head of the Class. But Billy Connolly was in both of those TV shows.
Gotcha. Okay. So Billy Connolly was also in a movie called The Imposters, which I really like. And the other thing I was going to say is Gene Hackman.
Still alive.
Gene Hackman, still alive. That's another thing for the people listening to the podcast.
And I have an update for you. Let's throw a fish at Joseph. Only has 189 views on YouTube, but
Whoa.
it is only 6 minutes long.
Oh, good. All right. So we should be... I'm going to say that you can cut around it. We have just 4 minutes left then. It feels longer than 6 minutes, doesn't it? I think part of what it is that you and I have memories of the amount of time that we spent doing all that other stuff.
That was an entire day. Yeah.
The 6 hours. Yeah.
I think you edited that. I think we edited it together, but you did it on your machine, so
Yep.
I don't have any of the other footage.
Oh yeah, and that footage is gone, Ben. I can tell you, I don't keep anything. It's part of the problem with my cartoons as well. People are like, you should save this, and I'm like, why?
I mean, the thing about all that other footage, it got cut for a reason.
Ah, okay. So we did an all right job.
I think we did an all right job.
To this day, Ben, I still sometimes I'll be sitting just by myself and I'll just go, ugh. And what is happening? The reason that I make that utterance is that I remember me going, okay, Ben, don't touch this stuff. I'm going to be editing this. It's very I'm precise. It's a thing. The editor that you have become is like it retroactively just makes me feel dumb.
I mean, and the only reason I became an editor is to prove you wrong, sir.
Hey, and you're welcome, Ben. That's all I was doing. It's like Whiplash over here, except I'm not going to throw a chair at you. Yet. I was thinking about that. If somebody were to create a thing that would allow you to hurt other people over the phone, they would make $1 million, at least.
Words can hurt, Paul.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So I guess that guy is named Steve Jobs, and what happened to him? Dead now. So, okay, so here's a question for you.
Yeah.
A thing that allows you to shock people and allows other people to shock you, right?
Yeah.
It's opt-in that if you do it, you have to allow people to shock you, and they, in turn, have to allow you to shock them. Would people sign up for it? And would those just be teenage boys?
Yes, and that's probably a majority of the people who opt in.
Like, I'm thinking about Jackass, the app, basically. But here's the other thing. I know how people are. There would be a hack for it where you don't actually get hurt at all. People would lie, whatever. I don't know. It wouldn't work.
The future is amazing.
Once you get implants, I think. And
maybe
I don't want implants.
In 30 years, Marty McFly is going to come back to 2021 and he's going to like, you don't have testicle zappers? This is a magical place.
There you go.
You built a time machine out of a zapper? The only way to go back in time is to give yourself an electric shock.
Yeah, I remember actually Joseph Krebs and I were talking about doing a time travel play. And the idea was that the person was sitting in a bathtub and the person who was sending them back in time says, this will be unpleasant. And then the lights go out and the person screams and then they're back in time.
Yeah.
That was the concept. That
and they're missing,
however you travel back in time.
And they're missing a kidney.
Very painful. Yeah. Anyway, on that note, we have hit the threshold, Ben.
Yeah, I think that's it. Well,
All
Paul.
right, well, thank you, as always, for talking to me. I enjoy these talks.
Yeah.
And between now and the next time we meet, I would like you to keep it wrong.
I certainly will try, and I throw that right back at you. Keep it wrong, Paul, and I will talk to you next week.
I caught it.
Hey, zip, zap, zop.
We did it. Hey. I almost swore, but I didn't.